Tom Callender, where is your integrity? The man who wept, then lied, and why the church is watching. Let me tell you what we now know for certain. Not what we suspect, not what we've inferred from documents and timelines. What we know, what is on the record, what two witnesses have confirmed, and what Tom Callender himself, in a moment so raw it shook the people on the other end of the phone, confirmed with his own mouth. Tom Callender sat with Joni Lamb 3 weeks before she died, for 35 minutes. And Joni Lamb, a woman who knew she was dying, who had watched one son be stripped of his inheritance, who had watched her own husband's final wish be buried under legal filings and board maneuvers. That woman looked Tom Callender in the eye and said, "If Jonathan tries to reach out and heal this, give him back Daystar." Those are the words. Not a feeling, not a vague sentiment, a specific instruction, a conditional wish, spoken by a dying woman to a man she trusted with everything, a man who had been in the room when this ministry was built, a man who Marcus Lamb loved, a man who Joni respected, a man who was supposed to be the conscience of that board. She trusted him with her last wish for her son. And then the condition was met.
Tom Callender broke open. He sobbed so hard that Sally thought he was having a heart attack. And through those tears, through that broken, unguarded, unscripted moment, Tom Callender said 5 words that no board attorney approved, no legal strategy prepared, no institutional calculation produced. He said, "I have been waiting for this. I have been waiting for this." Those are not the words of a man who is confused about what happened in that room with Joni. Those are not the words of a man who misremembered a conversation. Those are the words of a man who has been carrying a burden for months, who has been locked in a room with the truth, and who for one phone call, let it out. He confirmed what Joni said, through tears, with his whole body.
Days later, Tom Callender sent a text message, and in that text message, he said, "Please correct your statement immediately. I did not share any such statement with you about what Joni's last wishes were." That is the text. That is the record. The man who wept became the man who denied. The man who said, "I have been waiting for this," became the man who said it never happened. The man who held the key to Joni Lamb's final wish walked up to the door, put the key in the lock, and then put the key back in his pocket and walked away. Tom Callender, where is your integrity? I am not asking that as a rhetorical device. I am not asking it to shame you. I am asking it because it is the only question that matters right now. Not what Daystar's legal team advised, not what the board decided behind closed doors, not what institutional calculation led you to that text message. Where is your integrity? Because the integrity was there, on the phone. We heard it. Sally heard it. And you know it was there.
There is a tradition in the church, a long and honorable tradition, of deferring to elders, of assuming that a man who has walked with God for 40 years, who has buried friends and outlived enemies, who has watched ministries rise and fall, carries something the rest of us are still reaching for. We were taught to trust men like Tom Callender. And that tradition is not wrong. The Bible commands it. Honor your elders. Receive their counsel. Do not entertain an accusation against an elder without 2 or 3 witnesses. We have 2 witnesses. We have Sally. We have the phone call. We have the weeping. We have the words, "I have been waiting for this." And we have the text message that contradicts all of it. The 2 witnesses standard has been met. This is not a rumor. This is not an allegation from an anonymous source. This is a named witness, a documented account, reported by Julie Royce of the Royce Report.
cross-referenced with the prior reporting that this channel has carried, episode by episode, for weeks. So I want to ask you, Tom, not the board, not the attorneys, not the institution, you. What did the lie cost you? Not in legal terms. I am not a lawyer and I am not pretending to be one. In soul terms. In the terms that matter when you are standing before the God you have served for 40 years. What did the lie cost you? Because here is what I know about lies spoken by men of faith. They are never free. The first one is the most expensive because it takes everything you've built and puts it in hock. Every subsequent silence, every subsequent denial, every text message that contradicts a phone call is just interest on that original debt. You made the first choice when you received Joni's dying wish and said nothing to Jonathan. You made the second choice at the November 2023 board meeting when you dismissed him from the room. You made the third choice when you gifted the $100,000 honeymoon expenses that Jonathan had the courage to object to. And you made the fourth choice when you sent that text. 4 choices, each one heavier than the last, each one making the next one easier. That is how injustice survives inside the church. Not because evil men take over, because good men decide the cost of truth is too high. Let me be precise, because precision is the standard on this channel and we will not lower it now. The $100,000 honeymoon charges, documented by the Royce report through 2 Daystar expense reports. Jonathan's objection at the board meeting, on record from Jonathan Lamb himself in his December 2024 interview with Julie Royce. Tom Callender's decision to gift the expenses rather than open a governance process, on that same record. The 24 round-trip jet flights between Fort Worth and Colorado Springs, documented by the Trinity Foundation. The $2.9 million condo purchase, documented. The November 2023 board meeting where Tom Callender served as enforcer, reported by named sources to Julie Royce. The phone call where Tom Callender wept and confirmed Joni's dying wish, reported by Sally, on record to the Royce report. The text message denying it ever happened, also reported. That is the record. Every piece of it named, every piece of it sourced, every piece of it standing on the same journalistic standard this channel has held since the first episode. Tom Callender is in that record from beginning to end. He is not a peripheral figure. He is not a bystander who got caught up in something larger than himself. He is the sole independent board member. He was the structural conscience of a ministry that desperately needed. And I want to hold that phrase for a moment. Chose the institution over the truth. Because I think we need to be honest about what that means for those of us who gave to that institution. If you sent a check to Daystar Television Network in the last 2 years, you funded the institution that Tom Callender chose over the truth. You funded the jet that flew 24 times to Colorado Springs. You funded the board that dismissed Jonathan Lamb from the room and then sent him a termination letter the day after a journalist called for comment. You funded the silence that a dying woman's son is still living inside. That is not a small thing. I am going to do something now that I have not done in this series before. I am going to speak directly to Tom Callender. Tom, you are in your 80s. You have walked with God longer than some of the people watching this video have been alive. You knew Marcus Lamb. You sat with Joni as she was dying. You heard what she said. You felt what it meant. We know that. Because on that phone call, your body told the truth, even when your institution needed you to be silent. The weeping was real. The words were real. I have been waiting for this. That was... The conscience is still there, Tom. The question is whether you will let it speak before it's too late. Marcus took nothing with him. Not the broadcast license, not the board seat, not the influence. He took his obedience, and in his final moments, he pointed toward his son. That is Marcus Lamb's legacy. Not the building, the obedience. Joni Lamb, for all the complexity of her final chapter, found her way back to truth in her last weeks. She spoke it to you in that room. She trusted you with it. 35 minutes. She gave you 35 minutes of her dying time to make sure the right thing had a chance to happen.
You will not take the board seat with you either. You will not take the access or the influence or the version of yourself that walks into rooms and is recognized as someone who matters. None of it comes. But your word does. The weeping does. The moment you said, "I have been waiting for this," that is already written, already witnessed, already permanent. The question is what comes after it? What you add to the record before the record closes. Joni said, "Give him back Daystar." The condition has been met. Jonathan is ready. The message still needs to be delivered, and you are still the man who was trusted to deliver it. The window is still open, Tom. But windows do not stay open forever. I want to close tonight, not just with a word for Tom Callender, but with a word for us, for the church, for the people who have been watching this series and sitting with that uncomfortable feeling that something is deeply wrong, and that the people who should fix it keep making it worse. We have to stop treating institutional loyalty as a virtue when it is standing in the place of truth. The church was not built to protect organizations. It was built to protect people. It was built on the instruction of a God who left the 99 to find the one, who ran toward the prodigal while he was still a great way off, who did not wait for a committee to review the return application. Jonathan Lamb is a great way off. He has been standing outside a door that his mother already unlocked, and the man holding the key keeps sending text messages that say it was never a key at all. The body of Christ has the right, and I would say the obligation, to ask 3 questions. Ask them loudly. Ask them publicly. Ask them until there is an answer. First, Tom Callender, will you deliver the message Joni trusted you to carry? Not through a board statement, not through an attorney's letter. Will you, as a man who claims to serve the same God Joni served, deliver the message she gave you? Second, are there others in that room who know what Joni said? The record does not require Tom Callender alone. If there were others present, if there are others who heard what was spoken in those 35 minutes, the church is asking you to come forward. Sally came forward. She did not stay silent. You do not have to either.
Third, if Tom Callender will not speak, what will the Daystar board do? You cannot claim to operate a Christian ministry while the founder's dying wish for her own son sits undelivered on a board member's conscience. That is not stewardship. That is not governance. That is not Christianity. That is an institution protecting itself at the expense of the people it was built to serve. We are watching. The church is watching. And this channel will not stop watching until the truth is delivered, verified, sourced, and named, the way it has been from the very first episode of this series. Tom Callender, the record shows you knew. The phone call shows you felt it. The weeping shows it broke you open. The text shows you walked it back. We are still asking, where is your integrity? And we will keep asking. God bless you. God loves you. God smiles when he sees you.